Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe. I'm a sales and marketing coach and strategist for health coaches, life coaches, and wellness professionals who want to become a leader in their field by building their online community, rocking their sales process, and finally feeling confident about how they promote themselves and their marketing. On this show, we talk about tips to grow your business, save yourself time, and finally be able to create a sustainable, profitable business. Let's get into it. Today's podcast is brought to you by the Zero to Hero Coach Program. This is my 4-month program teaching coaches and online service providers how to grow your online business, book clients consistently, overcome your sales fears, and finally rock your social media visibility. If you struggle to create a sustainable coaching business, this program is for you. Check out HaileyRowe.com and book your free strategy call with my team or myself today. Thank you. I am live and I'm so excited because today we have a special guest who I actually met through the Tony Robbins UPW event. And Jaime is an example of somebody who is crushing it out there as a health coach. And you might have seen my recent episodes. One was with my client Alana last week about her experience in selling her first high ticket coaching packages and growing her business and creating her stellar offers that are out there in the world now. And Jaime here also has created something that women love, and I'm super excited to interview her for you guys today so you can see what her journey was like and some advice she'd give. So welcome to the show, Jaime.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me, Hailey. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell everybody a little bit about what you do and also maybe where you started to where you are now.
Totally. Yeah. So I was a personal trainer in my early 20s, kind of worked my way up at a local studio. I was living in Boston, and I realized there was nowhere else for me to go because I was managing the studio, I was teaching classes, I was training other clients, and I always knew that I wanted to have my own business. So I ended up going back to school for my MBA, started working out in Silicon Valley actually for, a little while. And the job market out there is kind of tumultuous. Like one minute you're laid off, the next minute your company is going public. It's just a lot of ups and downs, right? So in between layoffs, I decided to go back and, pursue, my health and fitness career goals. I had been training clients and, doing things with friends on the side. So I built the online business kind of in between, job layoffs. And then I got laid off, for a second time. And I told myself, I'm not going back to work for anybody else. I really want to go all in on myself. And that was, it was the July, August of 2016. And I went all in. And my boyfriend, now husband, my boyfriend at the time was not my husband. He actually decided to start a business as well while I did. So we ended up moving back home with my parents in Boston, lived with them for 3 years. Took me about 2.5, 3 years to have kind of that first coveted, 5-figure month. But since then, the rest is history. I have a really consistent business, multiple, 6-figure business, really happy clients, a brand that is now has a lot of, recognition in the online wellness space. So, that's kind of my story. I'm happy to dive into wherever you want to. So.
Well, I love that. And I love that you took a risk and, that even that you shared that it took you a couple of years to get to where you want to be, because really the whole point of this is, I think a lot of times I see coaches rushing, I need it to happen right this second. And not to say that you can definitely speed up your journey by learning from others and, getting structured in your business and keeping yourself accountable and stuff. But at the same time, that's not the point. The point is to get to, do what you love and create a sustainable impact. And however long it takes to get there, I'm sure you weren't kicking yourself oh, it took me 3 years. I'm sure you were wow, I've built my dream business. It's sustainable now. I'm living off of this. And you done it. So I want to just point that out, that took some commitment. And I also want to notice that I too, back around like 2017, that's when I worked at a startup. So I understand what you say when you said the job market, you're one day you're hired, next day. So entire company got let go because they had a bunch of delays and all these things. And that's when I went on my own too. And it was one of the best gifts. Like actually getting let go was one of the best gifts because it forced me to do my own thing versus, and one of my biggest regrets was when I was in that job, not doing my own thing, like kind of putting it completely on the back burner because I had my business at the time, but I wasn't really working it. So it just was one of my regrets because I totally let it go and then got back into it after I left. So I love that we share some commonalities in the journey, and congratulations to you for your success. And let's talk a little bit about some things you had to learn to be able to build that multiple six-figure business. How did you, let's start first. I'll go back to that question, but let's start first with how did you decide on a niche that was going to work with you, that you loved? Like, what was that process like for you?
Totally. So I always knew that I wanted to help women with like body transformation goals in a way that like wasn't restrictive. I just see, we see it out there. I'm sure your clients and your audience does all the time. Those of us in the fitness industry, we have the knowledge and skill sets to, kind of when something, doesn't feel right and it's being promoted to the masses, we can sniff that out, but a lot of people can't. So I knew that I wanted to really help women achieve a body transformation goal in a sustainable way. But what I actually found is a lot of times I would try to spend so much time like focused on my niche that I actually wasn't even giving it time to develop myself. And as I have gone through the days, weeks, months, and years of my business, I've really like honed in on my own niche. Like I've really kind of developed my own niche over, kind of learning like who do I work best with, who works best with me, who gets the best results, who feels really drawn to my message. So it's almost been an evolution.
Yeah. So I like that you took some action to learn what your niche was and evolve it over time versus picking something, realize like thinking you have to be married to it, overthinking it, never getting started because you're like, I have to make this right decision. Like it's such a key thing. I see so many people doing that. And I think the best way to really learn is to learn from what your audience needs and wants from you and who's naturally coming to you. So that's a really good piece of advice. Now, what about value positioning as a health coach? So you used to do personal training where people have a mindset of, okay, I'll pay you this much. You train me for an hour. I go home and that's it. So how did you start to shift into, I think I've seen that you have like different offers and programs and stuff like that. So tell us a little more about that journey.
Yeah, totally. And sorry, I don't know if that hammering's distracting. Okay. Yeah. So I started out just kind of like throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. So I started out charging $100 a month. And I found that, clients were getting results, but I felt very drained. And the commitment level kind of waxed and waned. And I started looking at like what other coaches were doing that were not in the fitness space. Like I really started looking at like what are business coaches doing and how do they put together packages and how do they, market and sell like to their, ideal clients. And I started to realize that I'm not really selling like an hour of coaching, like I'm actually selling a transformation. So I really had to speak to that transformation and to that outcome. And I actually make it very, very clear in my marketing and my messaging, even on my, strategy sessions with potential clients that like, I don't sell results because that's like a lawyer telling you that they're going to absolutely win the case for you or a doctor telling you they're absolutely going to cure you. Like we sell a transformation, but that means that, you've got to do your part as well. And I think that holding people to, a high standard of, commitment level, whether it be monetarily or, getting their buy-in in another way, actually does them a really big favor because it causes them to rise as well. So hopefully that answers your question, but that's really how I work through value positioning. I had to look outside of the fitness industry because there's a lot of like, oh, subscribe to this $30 a month thing and, here's the workouts. And I think those programs can be great for certain people. But what I've found is that like to create a lasting body transformation, because I've done that for myself, it wasn't really the workouts and it wasn't really the nutrition. I literally had to become like a new person, like new habits, new beliefs, new actions. And that's not going to happen from like a $30 a month subscription service. So
yes, I love a couple things that you said there. Number one, I love that you didn't compare yourself to people in your industry, because I think a lot of people define or determine what's possible for them just by looking around at what others are doing, which is not true. There's always people within each industry who do something completely different and succeed, and that could be you. So I love that. And I love that you looked at other industries. I really enjoy doing that too. Like I really enjoy, like I was reading a book about business, but it was about a carpenter, like a carpeting business, and how locally they just dominated and what they did. And it was so interesting. It wasn't online coaching, but a lot of the ideas there, I could be like, wow, nobody's really doing this, or this is such a great idea. And so I want to stress for anybody listening, it is a good idea to look into other industries, compare art or music or other things to how are people packaging that? How are they doing? How is the songwriter writing the song? Like all these things that just little things you could take and learn and apply to your business in a fun way. And I also want to bring attention to that fact that you shifted from thinking, yeah, it's a personal training session, to I'm selling a transformation. So tell me a little more about, one of the things I've seen you do is in general in marketing, we want to connect the transformation to either something really crazy and amazing improving in their health, something amazing improving in their relationships, or something having to do with wealth, you building wealth, you whatever, creating an ROI. So how have you connected, or what's like your point A to point B that has resonated with women to allow you to make sales?
totally. Well, my main message is this is like the last body transformation program you'll ever need. And I believe that with my heart and my soul, because this is the exact framework that I've used to lose the weight and keep it off since I was 18 years old. One of my coaches went through the program, did the same, and my clients do the same too. So that's really the end result that I'm speaking to, is like, imagine taking this time now and having it be a permanent transformation and a permanent fix. And with that, of course, like when you feel better in your body, I mean, the name of my program is Dream Body, Dream Life. When you feel better in your body, you're able to show up more powerfully in your life. You're able to create more wealth and abundance. You're able to attract the soulmate relationship that you're looking for. You're able to, kind of do the things that you maybe didn't have the mind space or energy to do because you were so focused on how crappy, you felt, or how out of alignment you felt in your body.
Yeah, for sure. And I've even seen you tell your own stories, like how you've grown your business as a result of not having to be focused so much on your body and your weight, and freeing yourself up to be like, now I can focus on my business, or just other things like you come up on my Facebook feed a lot for some reason, which is good. That means you're doing something right.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. But I've seen like little stories here and there, and you connect it to, so what? Meaning once you don't have to worry about this body transformation all the time anymore, look at what's possible in your life. Look at what you can do, right? So that's something I want to commend. And I want to ask you as well, like, how did you, when you were new and you were overwhelmed and you were like, okay, I got to get my message out there and I got to get clients, what were some of the things you did as a client acquisition strategy that worked, that didn't work? Like, tell us a little more about your journey there.
Yeah. First, I really had to, and this is kind of what we were talking about earlier, I call this like no plan B energy. Like when I quit when I got laid off in tech, I was like, I will never go back to work for somebody else. I will figure this out. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what I have to do. I will do anything, right? So that has to be your foundation, because if you try to add strategy, but you don't have that rock solid foundation, you will look at every strategy and be like, that doesn't work. There's evidence that I shouldn't do this. That doesn't work. There's evidence that I shouldn't do this, right? So, and going back to what you said earlier, just because I think it's so important, like people tend to be in such a rush to get to the end result, but who cares if it takes you a year, 2 years, or 3, as long as you get there. And if you want to be a health coach and you want to be a successful one and really help your clients, and a client comes to you and they're like, I need to lose 10 pounds in a week, it's the same energy. You can't really do that unless, you cut off a limb or something, right? So it's the same. And we have to like almost release that graspiness of like wanting to force something to work and just be in it for the long game. That's the foundation. In terms of strategies and things that I have done over, the years, I've done ads, which has been a hit or miss experience for me, because I find that cold traffic, especially now, because my program, like my main program, starts at an 8K price point. So it's a high level of investment. And to nurture a cold, lead up to that level, I haven't cracked that code, and it's not one that, I feel called to crack right now, but I have done lead generation with Facebook ads before, and I've gotten, people into my world. I think the best marketing strategy, honestly, is relationships and connections. Truly, like really looking at like every relationship as an introduction to a whole other world of people, right?
Yeah.
And that being said, not going into the relationship like with the intention of like, oh, I'm going to sell this person, or this is going to be this needs more like sales from you or whatever, but wanting to just build genuine connections with people, and because people can feel when, things aren't feeling so right, and you might want something from them and it just feels off. But when you make a genuine connection, you are going to be the first person they think about when they think about body transformation, either for themselves or for somebody that they know. So I think genuine relationship building is something that, Facebook could go away tomorrow, Instagram could go away tomorrow, but you can always build relationships, and those will stand the test of anything that happens to any social media algorithm. So that's like the best strategy that I've found. And the way to get into relationships, it could be, paid groups or paid masterminds or free groups, or, making Facebook friends with people and just starting to build a connection in that way. So I honestly feel like that's like my number one, I don't even want to call it a strategy, because I'm not going into it with that intention, but just looking at like, how can I just build a network, of amazing people.
I love that. Yes. And I always preach that, because I'm all about the principles, because as you said, algorithms can change tomorrow. Social media could go away. Something changes. Something that used to work doesn't work anymore as a tactic. But the principles of meeting people, talking to them, nurturing a relationship, adding value, et cetera, making an offer, those things don't change. You can do that, and you could do it in any environment. And that's really what I try to teach my clients. And I teach them the different ways you can do that. But I think it's really important to just get the core down. And just like you said, you need the core belief first, that you're in this for the long game. You're open to it evolving and adapting, because it's going to evolve and adapt. Your marketing is going to, you're not going to just set something up and then walk away and it forever be in peace and just, be done. Right. So I think that you really set the stage there well. And when it comes to relationship building, I think so many people, you nailed it again when you said you don't want to go in with like, I need to close a deal with this person right away. Like, that's not the right approach, because then immediately your body shuts down. You don't want to do that. That feels terrible. Humans want to belong and connect and, be friends with people, not immediately thinking, I want to sell them. Like, you're setting yourself up for not wanting to do that. Right. So when you say build relationships, this is a very vague term. It's kind of like the term create value. right? And a lot of people are like, well, what does this mean?
Mhm.
So you said, some ways to meet people are, you could do something like Facebook ads just to get in front of people and build more, people to talk to, right? But you're also in Facebook groups, or you are connecting with people in paid groups that you're in, networking groups, etc. But then take it one step further for us and just maybe give an example of how you start a relationship, or what you say, or kind of your process there, if you're open to it. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, totally. And I'm glad you asked for the actual how to, because I feel like, that is a vague piece of advice. And when I was first starting, I would really want something kind of more tangible. So the way that I would approach it is, like, let's say that you friend request somebody on Facebook. I personally, like, and they accept that friend request, I personally would not like send a DM. Like, to me, that's kind of the equivalent of like you're at a bar and then a guy like immediately comes up to you and is like, "Can I buy you a drink?" And you're like, "Oh," versus like he's might be like, "Oh, hi," and then like just starts a nice conversation, or just something a little bit less forward. I think the kind of Facebook equivalent of like easing into a relationship would be like some of their pictures or their content. Leave genuine comments, not just like, "Love this." Like, you can say like, "This spoke to me so much," and like, "I love that you said this thing." And, if the person that you friend requested, if their content doesn't resonate, then don't leave that comment. But if somebody does, like, start liking their stuff, interact with their stories. Like, I remember the people that interact like with my stories and leave comments and leave genuine comments and things like that. So that's how I would start it. And then when you feel like maybe that you've kind of built a connection and there's like reciprocation, then you can always send a message and just be like, "Hey, like, I really love your content. I'm really, looking to build some more genuine, like, one-to-one relationships. If you're open to it, I would love to have a connection call. If not, I totally understand. Either way, like, I love what you're putting out there in the world." I think something like that, which is just, "Hey, like, if you want to, I'd love it. It's not a sales conversation. It's just a genuine connection. If that feels good to you, let me know. If not, no worries." I think that's a really just nice way to, like, take their relationship to the next level. And then, you have a conversation, you guys continue to keep in touch. Like, that's how relationships get built. I mean, I've met like some of my best friends right now, or like people that I've met in the online space.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's how I think. But I think, like, if you friend request somebody and 2 minutes later you send them a DM, even if it's like asking, even if you send that message, it's gonna feel like creepy guy at bar vibes.
Yeah, totally. Good advice. So I think what you said there, like, relationships get built, somebody has to take the lead a little bit. And you don't have to take the lead by immediately being like, "Oh, we need to work together," or get on a connection call right away. But I like the way you said that. And I also think there was something you mentioned I wanted to point out. Shoot. I can't remember now. But I think using your best judgment and EQ, emotional intelligence, and also not making assumptions about the other person. So in other words, I notice a lot of people being like, "Well, no one would ever want to hear from me," or like, "That person already has their life figured out because they do blah, blah, blah." Or like, don't just assume based on what you feel like, or what your experience is, or whatever. I always like to find out. I would rather get a yes or no if someone wants to build a connection or relationship than wonder and be like, they probably don't, and just like make assumptions. In business, we can't just make assumptions that we think because of how we feel or our own experience, because other people have different experiences and things like that. And the other thing that I would say is, it depends on your communication style too. Like, I work with other business owners. So business owners understand that, it's important to connect. We like to expand our network. We like to provide value to each other. Like, so it depends on your niche as well. If you for me and you, Jaime, we kind of connected right away. Like you were just like, hey, let's connect. Let's maybe do a podcast. I was like, hell yeah, let's connect. Right. Like, and we had a common ground. Like we both were at UPW and stuff. So it was like, we didn't need to be like, hey, let's have a connect. Like, I was like, you seem really cool. Okay, let's connect. Like, so you got to use your best judgment. And like, I usually do send a welcome message when somebody joins my Facebook group or follows me on Instagram. Cause I'm like, hey, I acknowledge you're here versus me being like, I'll, reach out later. Like, so I'm very direct and that's my style. I'm not selling them in message one. I'm not trying to get a sale. Like that's not cool. But, I am, I do want to acknowledge that they're there. So it just depends on your style and what you're doing. Right.
Yeah. And
ahead.
I think when someone comes into your world, like it's a little bit different, and I think that you bring up a really good point. Like when somebody enters your world, it's a little different than like, okay, I'm just gonna friend request them. And then as soon as they accept, like I'm gonna do this and that. Right. So
right. And you could tell the vibe behind it.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, it doesn't even matter what you do. If the vibe behind it is really weird and creepy and needy and desperate and graspy, people will sense that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So what has been some of the mindset things? So you already said you had to be in it for the long run and just establish up front, I don't care. I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to figure this out. And you did. What were some of the other mindset things you had to go through in your business on the way to your success?
Yeah, I think a lot of things, and it's an ever evolving journey. You really can't be afraid of quote unquote failure. Like I really don't even think that there's such a thing as failure. It's either we get what we want or something better, or we learn something. I think that people paralyze themselves because they're so afraid of what if it doesn't work, or what if this happens, or what if that. So I think that just not being afraid to try new things is really important. I also think that people tend to really, really freak out about money, and it's understandably so. We all have our own money wounds and things like that. And, when I started my business, I went 30 G's in debt and moved in with my parents, and I didn't really start making money, that could sustain me moving out and for a couple of years. And I think sometimes people are so afraid of the money and the spending and investing in a coach, these things, you've got to be willing to have skin in the game. If you want people to invest in you, you've got to invest in yourself. And I think that just not holding so tightly to the fear of investing in help, a coach, a mentor, something I think mentorship, like what you offer is really the best thing for somebody who's starting versus a large kind of, just massive group program. Those things can be great too. But I think that really kind of, either small group or kind of one-to-one mentorship is really great. So just don't be afraid of the money. Money is just, it comes and it goes. And you know what? It's just, if you're afraid to spend money, you're never going to make it. So I had to really overcome my own money fears, especially going into debt, having, no income. Another thing that I had to overcome is just realizing that if you try to appeal to everybody, you're really going to appeal to nobody. So not being afraid to be really polarizing. I made a live stream last year at the end of 2020 about how I made $400K, and it triggered some people. It triggered some former clients, who knew me when I was first starting out, and they're like, you shouldn't be talking about that. And I was like, okay, I should, but I got 1,000 views, and so many people were like, thank you for sharing this. I never thought it was possible in the health and fitness space, or thank you for sharing. Oh my God, this is amazing. So realize that on your journey, I don't want to say hate is going to hate, but there will be people that do not like your message. And when you step into a position of leadership, and anybody who owns a business is, right, you're putting yourself out there, you will become a reflection of people's triggers. And it is not your job to try to fix them for other people. And it is not your job to take that on, right? And think that something is wrong. So just realizing that as long as I stay grounded and on my mission, I probably will upset some people, and that's okay. I can be okay with that. And it might hurt, but I've got a bigger message, and I've got people that need to hear this message, and they're depending on me to do that. So that was a really big mindset challenge, because that was a really big trigger of mine, is like any sort of negativity or negative comments, especially coming from like former clients from like many years ago, and I had to work through that. And I'm glad that I did, because things like that sometimes make people shut down and be like, oh, maybe I should just quiet my voice. Maybe I shouldn't say that, right? And I was like, no, F that. Like, I'm just going to talk louder, because there's these 1,000 people who are giving me all the love. I'm not going to let the 2 people who said something, like derail my mission. So.
Woo, Jaime, I'm in a memoir right now. This is really good. So first of all, I just want to repeat that how other people respond to you is a reflection of their triggers. We are in a personal development space. We're talking about things like money, things like your deep health challenges, things like your, relationships and things that are not making your life the way you want it to be and how you want to feel in your life. These are hot topics. This is not like a makeup brand or lipstick gloss where you could be like, hey, this is the product, enjoy. So people are going to have reactions to that. They are going to have beliefs and reasons why they're not where they want to be in those areas. And those are going to come up probably when you're, setting a new example or changing a new paradigm or whatever. And our job as coaches is to hold people accountable to what they say they want to do in their life, who they want to be. And so I see money not as like, oh, it's so important because it buys things and you get to have, go travel, whatever. I see money as like, this is a personal way to grow yourself. This is a personal way to like track like your mindset changes and how you've been able to like do something in your life that's created value. Like, I just think it's a great personal development thing, not even about the material of money, right? So I think other people don't see it that way. They see money is the root of evil, and when you get a lot of it, you become selfish. And yet I think it amplifies good in people. Like, it amplifies you being able to be generous and do things. So people have these different beliefs they come to the table with, and your job is not to, solve every problem in every video. You just can't do that. You can't please everybody. And maybe it's not even a thing that needs to be solved. I mean, that's just how they are, and that's how they want to be, and that's fine. And you have to be okay with being polarizing, as Jaime said. So that's key. And the other thing that when you brought up how you had to not be afraid of failure, that is so huge, because personally, I had a coaching call recently, and I was like, the coach repeated back to me, it was like, so you think people shouldn't make mistakes or mess up? And I was like, wait, no. But I was putting that on myself. So I was like, oh crap. Like, I was like, no, in my head, I should be perfect. I should never make a mistake. I should never mess up. And because I have, this is a disaster and this is a catastrophe. And they were like, so wait, so you think like no one should ever make any mistakes? I was like, no, that's not true. So I caught myself. But you do have to be okay. And it feels bad because it's uncomfortable and it's not what our brain likes to deal with. But we can, and you become stronger and you learn from it. So the last thing I want to say to you is I want to ask you about content. So what's some of your things that do best when you do content? How do you come up with your ideas? Like, tell me a little more about what's your content process.
Oh gosh, I wish I had a better answer for you. I have tried so many different content strategies, whether it's like planning a month's worth, a week's worth. And I've really found that what works best for me is to be in the moment with my inspiration, what comes to me, write the post, design the graphic, or find the picture and post it. Like, I can't even tell you, anytime I've tried to plan like a month's worth of content, it feels super draining for me. And not everybody's like this. Like, I think all of us have our different like work styles and things like that. But for whatever reason, my content tends to perform the best, like when I literally just get inspired and write it in that moment and post it in that moment. That being said, sometimes when I'm lacking inspiration or I don't know what to write about, I will like look through like client check-ins and see like what are clients winning, what are they struggling with, could that be a piece of content? What have I looked through my consultation notes? I'll look back at things that I've written, a couple of years ago. I'll look at some of the like business or money mindset coaches I admire and see what they're writing about, and how can I, sort of use topics like that and put a fitness or wellness spin on it. So I am definitely not the fancy pants girl with her content coded calendar, but hopefully there's another, guy or girl out there who's like, thank you, because that's not how they are either. And, I'm proof, and evidence that you don't need to do that in order to have a successful business.
That is exactly what I wanted to point out. You were focusing on your relationships, which I think are much more important anyways than content. And one of my big things is saying you can be successful, because I don't post all the time either on Instagram stories and all that stuff without having to post on social media all the time. Yes, it helps nurture. Yes, it helps build value. Yes, it could be your main strategy if you wanted it to be, but you don't have to. It's not the first thing I would prioritize, right? So I love that you pointed that out, and good for you for just kind of being like, you know what? I feel inspired. I'm going to do this. And here's what my clients need to hear today based on my sessions I've had and that kind of thing. So anyways, okay. So Jaime, this has been amazing and fun. Where can everybody connect with you?
Yeah, connect with me on Facebook or Instagram. You can find me it's just search my name, Jaime Morocco, and I'd love to connect with you guys. And thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you. And congratulations on all of your success. And I can't wait to see where you continue to take things.
Thank you. Likewise.
All right. And for everybody listening to the replay, go ahead and go to HaileyRowe.com to grab your free niche marketing training and Instagram bio checklist. And I'm going to be sending out a couple more exciting trainings and tips over the next couple of weeks, gearing up for a live event that I'm hosting for free. So you'll definitely want to hear more about that. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And if you liked it and want to reserve your very own free sales audit, go to HaileyRowe.com/strategy-call to book your very own free sales audit. On the call, we'll talk more about the common concerns you get from your ideal clients, how to overcome those concerns, how to coach through objections, how to change your mindset around sales, and improve your sales process so you can be closing and converting more clients. I can't wait to connect with you, and go to HaileyRowe.com/strategy-call to take the first step. Thanks so much. Have a good day.